My son stole his dead mother's ring for his girlfriend, and now he won't talk to me after making him return it. To say I was mad as hell would be an understatement. I, 46 male, have a son Jake, 23 male. Jake was a good kid growing up, so him doing this was a complete shock to me. I have a daughter too. Amber, 16 female. When my wife passed away from COVID nearly 2 years ago, she already had a will in place. She was immunocompromised due to a prior condition she was diagnosed with a decade before she passed. And she made sure she had a will set just in case anything happened to her. And instead, she will divide her assets between our children. And Jake got his cut as he was already 21. He used that money to put a down payment on a condo, and he also got his mother's car. But the will stated that my daughter was to get all of my wife's jewelry. That included a vintage gold ring with a diamond that had a little blue sapphire on each side of it. The ring has been passed down for generations in my wife's family. It was originally her grandmother's wedding band. Her husband was a jeweler and handcrafted the ring for her himself. And it was passed down to my wife's mother when her grandmother died, and then to my wife herself when her mother passed away. Along with it, any and all other jewelry was to go to my daughter. When my wife passed, my grief was intense, but I powered through it for the sake of my family, and they supported me 100%. So the betrayal from my son was just a rusty knife in the back for me. For the past 8 months, Jake has been dating Sarah. She has my son wrapped around her finger, and she loves jewelry and she adorns herself with it a lot. My son mentioned the family jewels my wife left his sister to Sarah one day, and Sarah really wanted to see them. So Jake went into my room when no one was home and showed them to her. He later admitted to me he'd done this, and I was angry. But I thought that would be the end of it. I was wrong. Jake came to me a week ago and begged for that ring from his mother's family jewel so that he could propose with it. He said Sarah had fallen in love with the ring when she saw it before, and he just knew it'd be the perfect ring to ask her to marry him with. He seemed completely convinced I'd be jumping for joy for him wanting to propose. But instead, I told him that I was not the one to ask as the ring belongs to Amber. And I wouldn't have him pressuring her to give it up either. For a fair chance, I'd allowed him to explain his reasons and asked her for it once, but only once, without pressuring her. And if she refuses for any reason, that will be the end of it. Jake agreed and asked Amber for the ring right in front of me, but she told him no because she wanted to keep it in the family jewels and has always loved that ring. To her, it's priceless. She couldn't bear to ever give it up. I told Jake that was that and to not press the matter further. Jake left looking very unhappy about not getting the ring, but I thought he'd let it go and look into finding a similar one. But he came back another day while I was at work to talk to his sister after she got home from school. He and Amber got into a huge fight about the ring, and Amber called me crying. I called Jake and told him to get out of my house and leave his sister alone. Jake yelled at me that he should have just as much right to the ring as his sister because my wife was his mother too. But I reminded him he got a lot of his mother's money and her car. The jewelry is Amber's and only hers. He hung up on me, and Amber soon texted me that he left very angry. Later, right before I left for work, my daughter called and told me that Jack came back. He walked in dressed in a suit, went into my room and took something, then left without saying anything to Amber. She tried to keep him from leaving, but he shoved her out of the way. I rushed home as soon as my shift was over and checked my wife's jewelry box. The ring was gone. I immediately called Jake, but he didn't answer, so I messaged him that I'll get the police involved if he doesn't return the ring. Using it to propose won't stop me from taking it back. That finally made him talk to me, and he tried to say I couldn't do that to him because he's my son. I said I can and will because he outright stole the ring, and he'd better bring it back right away or I would take drastic measures. Well, he phoned me right after that, and in a whisper he said that it was too late. He'd taken his girlfriend out to dinner and proposed to her with the ring. He hadn't had it for more than an hour by this point, yet the ring was already on her finger. I said that was his problem. He stole the ring, he can bring it back. It's not his, and I will do whatever it takes to make sure it's returned. And if that means going to police and blowing the whole situation up, then so be it. I'll file a report, I'll even get a lawyer. Jake started crying and saying I couldn't do this to him. I told him tough luck. He stole from both his sister and dead mother. I would not back down until the ring was returned. Jake wouldn't stop crying and making excuses, so I told him to have the ring back by morning or I would be moving forward with legal action. Jake is my son, but he still broke the law, and I couldn't overlook what he did. He said he'd be in by the morning to talk and ended the call while crying even more. Well, Jake did show up in the morning and brought his girlfriend with him to try and guilt us. Turns out, she not only knew he stole the ring, she wanted to keep it anyway, because she was completely in love with the ring since she first laid eyes on it. I told her I didn't care. She could have a jeweler make a copy of it or something, but the original doesn't belong to her, it belongs to my daughter and deceased wife. Jake begged me one more time not to make her give it back, but I and my daughter stood firm. Return the ring or face police and maybe even a potential lawsuit. Jake's girlfriend pulled the ring off her finger and dropped it in my daughter's hand, called me an evil bastard, then left my house in tears. Jake started screaming at me that I may have just destroyed his relationship. I retorted him that he did this to his own relationship relationship by stealing a ring that didn't belong to him. What kind of son steals from his own sister and dead mother? That is beyond terrible. Jake had nothing more to say to me and walked out to follow after his girlfriend. I didn't get anyone else involved in the situation, but Jake did. He tried getting support from friends and family, but he got the exact opposite reaction he'd hoped for. They were all mad at him over what he'd done. I got many phone calls and messages from people offering me condolences and saying they were not on Jake's side. I tried to do damage control, but now everybody knows. It's been a week now and Jake refuses to speak to me. I've sent him detailed pictures of the ring just in case he wanted a jeweler to replicate it, but making a copy would be very expensive unless he used fake stones. And thus far, there has been no response. I don't know what the situation is with his girlfriend, if she even still is his girlfriend after what happened, but I stand by the fact that Jake had to return the ring. I have since had all of my wife's jewelry placed in a safety deposit box that only I have access to, and the jewelry will remain there until my daughter is 21. It may even stay there if she wants to keep it safe that way. I know I'm in the right to have reclaimed the ring, however, I don't want my son to hate me, and I don't want the family to hate him. If anyone has any advice as to how to better mediate this situation without me giving away the ring or spending lots of money, I'm all ears.
My girlfriend and I have been dating for 5 months. Before we started dating, I had a crush on her for roughly a year. It was pretty well known since one of my old friends spilled it directly to her and her friends.
Oh my God.
They giggled for some time, but she never made a move on me or spoke to me about it. We're just classmates and we aren't very close. For New Year's, she hosted a birthday party for her 17th birthday. I was overjoyed. 17th, that makes sense. Oh, to be young again. I was overjoyed and happily came. It was a great party, though I was mostly off to the side because my friends were mingling with other people.
Been there.
Yeah, feels majorly. A few days afterwards, she came up to me and asked to meet me after school. We agreed at the park, for 17, where she confessed she had feelings for me and wanted to be a couple.
I feel as a 30-year-old woman listening to you tell this story, I'm like, okay.
But remember, Eilish, when we were 17, everything juicy happened at the park.
Oh, yeah.
It was the place to be.
Like the bus stop.
So this person was over the moon and they began dating that day.
Okay.
They go on. Our relationship was pretty solid. We didn't get into many fights, but she wasn't all that affectionate, which I was fine with. We never got intimate and mainly did small things like cuddling.
Oh my God.
Skip to 5 months. She was in my home and in the kitchen, making herself a snack. I love these details. Her phone was buzzing and she asked me to bring it over. Her settings are where you can see the first line of the message, which is a rookie mistake if you're hiding something. The phone also automatically turns on whenever she receives a notification.
Go.
I took a glimpse and it was one of her friends. Take a stab in the dark. What do you think the friend texted her?
Have you done the maths homework? Because they're in high school.
Which is probable, very, very likely. No, something much worse.
Okay.
The text read something like, "When is the breakup happening?"
Oh, I'm sorry. I just didn't
No,
laugh.
I also must say, it's this weird thing. It's like a reaction where you feel like you have to laugh when you read something terrible because it's like so out of this world. It gets worse. This definitely gets worse.
Oh, no.
I unlocked her phone since I knew her password. I read a few more messages where they were talking about a prank they pulled on me.
Oh,
I know.
Come on now.
I confronted her about it and she went silent. After some prodding, she confessed. During her birthday, one of her friends dared her to ask me out.
Oh.
She felt guilty when we continued dating for months upon months. It was supposed to be a one-time thing with a simple date at a restaurant. They planned to hook me up with someone and frame me for cheating in the next few weeks, so she had a valid reason to break up with me.
Oh my God.
I know. It also gave the other girls a chance to spread rumors about me. We got into a huge fight and I told her to leave and that we were done. It's only been a few hours and I'm absolutely devastated. I really, really liked this girl and she decided it was a fun idea to pull at my heartstrings. I don't know what to do. Her things are still here at my house, so I'm going to put them in a box and leave it outside. She's been texting me, apologizing and trying to explain herself. I blocked her friends' numbers since they were also harassing me.
What the fuck?
I'm kind of assuming maybe the friends were trying to explain why, like justify their actions.
Listen, we've all done stupid things when we were 17. I have to say, I never pranked someone In fact, I never prank someone just period, but like I would never prank someone to this degree, even as a 17-year-old. I mean, this stuff is like trauma. Like this person's going to be going through this for like their entire life now. Like that sucks so bad.
Yeah. And like we do have to make the point that they are children, I guess. But 17 is also quite old to be treating somebody like this.
Yeah.
I kind of was getting the impression that the girl, because of all the months they'd been dating, wanted to stay together. Like she was apologetic, being like, this started really terribly, but I kind of do have strong feelings for you now, and was like, please forgive me.
Right.
So I think that's where the situation has ended. That's where we are now. It's a really tricky one, but this person is saying, I'm never seeing her again. And I think that's so fair.